The ultimatum arrived without ceremony, translated into every human language within seconds, carried on a tight beam from the high command of the Virellian Compact to every major transmitter in the Sol system, and stated in calm, precise terms that humanity had 10 standard galactic days to surrender all military authority, dismantle its fleets, submit its governments to Compact oversight, and accept permanent resource levies. And the reason given was efficiency, because the Compact had decided that Earth's continued independence was inefficient for regional stability, and across Earth the message played in crowded cities, remote villages, orbital stations, research bases, and warships, and for a few quiet minutes the planet listened, not in panic but in stillness, because humans had heard threats before, and in Washington the emergency lights came on in the Strategic Response Center, where President Alan Crowe stood with his hands on the table listening as advisors spoke over one another, some arguing that this was a bluff, others warning that Compact fleets had already been detected near the outer system, and in Colorado Springs, General Daniel Mercer watched sensor feeds scroll past, his face unreadable, while in Houston, Admiral Laura Bennett quietly asked a junior officer to confirm the timestamp on the transmission, and when it was confirmed, she nodded once, as if checking off an item on a list, and on Luna, Dr. Kevin Holt paused his work in Propulsion Lab and replayed the message twice, noting the phrasing, the confidence, the assumption that compliance was inevitable, and in a shipyard above Mars, Captain Ryan Cole listened from the bridge of a half-completed carrier as his crew waited for orders, and on the other side of the stars, in the vast crystalline chamber of the Virellian Council, Supreme Coordinator Threx watched the human reaction feeds with mild interest, noting the lack of visible chaos, and assuming it was denial, because every species reacted the same way at first, and Threx reminded the Council that humans were young, divided, and technologically inferior, their ships crewed by Compact standards, their weapons inefficient, their psychology fragile, and the 10-day window was generous, almost kind, meant to allow an orderly transition, and several counselors agreed, recalling the brief skirmishes with human patrols at the edge of Compact space where humans had retreated after limited losses, interpreting restraint as weakness. And back on Earth the first day passed without reply, which irritated the Compact observers but did not alarm them, because surrender often came late, and the second day saw protests in human cities, not against the Compact, but against their own leaders for even considering compliance, and intelligence analysts noted this with concern, mistaking public anger for internal fracture, while human governments moved assets quietly, rerouting supply chains, activating dormant facilities, and issuing coded directives that had not been used in decades, and General Mercer authorized readiness level black across all commands, a level never publicly acknowledged, and Admiral Bennett ordered the recall of deep-range exploration vessels, not to defend Earth, but to take positions that would make sense later, and President Crowe addressed the world on the third day, his voice calm, stating that humanity would not make a rushed decision, that every option would be considered, and that no response would be sent yet, which satisfied no one and angered the Compact further, and in the Virellian chamber Threx dismissed the delay as political theater, explaining to the Council that humans needed time to argue among themselves, and that fear would break them soon, and on the fourth day Compact probe drones crossed the heliopause openly, broadcasting their presence, and human defenses tracked them but did not fire, letting them pass unchallenged, which reinforced Compact confidence, and Threx remarked that humans lacked the will to escalate, unaware that every probe was being mapped, analyzed, and quietly tagged with signal markers. And by the fifth day, rumors spread to the galaxy that Earth would fold, that another minor species would be absorbed, and trade route adjusted in anticipation. And on Earth the mood shifted from fear to something harder, something older, as veterans recognized the pattern of an enemy who believed the fight was already won. And in underground briefing rooms, officers dusted off doctrines written after humanity's earliest wars, doctrines based not on quick victory but on endurance, escalation, and the willingness to absorb pain to inflict greater pain in return. And Dr. Holt submitted a final report to the Defense Council confirming that the prototypes were stable, dangerous, and irreversible once deployed, and General Mercer approved them without hesitation, stating only that the cost of restraint would be higher, and on the 6th day the Compact transmitted a reminder, coldly noting that failure to respond would be interpreted as defiance, and President Crowe did not answer, and instead authorized Operation Full Measure, a name deliberately vague, and across human space automated factories began running at capacities never declared in treaties. Shipyards sealed their docks, and data centers shifted from civilian to military control, and Compact Intelligence noticed the increased energy output, but assumed it was preparation for evacuation or a last show of force, because that was what weaker species did. And on the seventh day, Threx convened the Council to discuss post-surrender administration of Earth, assigning resource quotas and governance structures, speaking of humans as a logistical problem already solved. And on Earth, Admiral Bennett visited a secure facility beneath the Pacific where a row of ships sat in dry docks, black-hulled, unmarked, their designs absent from any public registry. And she ran her hand along the cold metal and said quietly that the galaxy was about to learn the difference between limited war and total war. And on the eighth day, the compact fleet began moving inward, a show of force meant to coincide with the final deadline, and human sensors tracked every jump, every formation, feeding the data into models that adjusted in real time. And General Mercer watched the projections and confirmed what he already knew, that the compact believed in decisive first strikes, in overwhelming force used once, and that they had never faced an enemy prepared to lose worlds to win a war. And on the ninth day, Earth sent a single message, not to Council, but to every major network in known space, a simple statement that humanity acknowledged the ultimatum and rejected it, followed by a phrase translated imperfectly into alien languages as total commitment, and the transmission cut off before the compact could respond. And in the Council chamber, Threx felt something unfamiliar, a flicker of doubt, as reports flooded into human fleets dispersing rather than concentrating, of energy signatures spiking in unexpected regions, of long-range arrays powering up that had not existed in previous scans. And he ordered the invasion to proceed immediately, convinced that hesitation would embolden the humans. And on Earth, the 10th day dawned under clear skies as civilians were moved into shelters, not with panic but with grim acceptance. And President Crowe stood alone in the Oval Office, recording a message that would be released if Earth fell, stating simply that humanity had chosen to stand. And at the exact moment the deadline expired, General Mercer gave the order that had been waiting since the first word of the ultimatum arrived, and across. Human space systems came online that had never been tested in open conflict, and the galaxy, watching from a distance, had no idea that the concept of war it understood was about to be rendered obsolete under the cold glare of alien sensors. Humanity's first strikes unfolded with precision that no compact analyst had predicted, as fleets long hidden in asteroid belts, behind gas giants, and in cloaked orbits activated simultaneously, revealing ships whose designs combined centuries of human innovation with adaptive AI systems that could rewrite their own protocols mid-battle, and energy signatures flared across the void as weapons tested only in simulations reached targets before the compact could respond. An initial shockwave stunned the Council, as their fleets, superior in size and firepower, found themselves outmaneuvered in ways that defied the rigid doctrine of Virellian warfare. And while human officers issued concise orders, translating decades of tactical theory into instantaneous action, alien commanders scrambled, attempting to coordinate defense against strikes that seemed random but were actually calculated to exploit every known weakness. And on Earth, President Alan Crowe, standing in a subterranean command hub beneath the Rocky Mountains, watched real-time feeds from multiple sectors, noting with calm detachment how humans were not merely defending. They were dictating the pace, choosing targets, and striking with surgical efficiency. While scientists like Dr. Kevin Holt monitored new weapons reaching critical thresholds, their output synchronized across multiple vectors, and engineers in orbital yards fine-tuned deployment drones, adjusting trajectories mid-flight to maximize disruption. And on the front lines, Admiral Laura Bennett piloted her flagship through a chaotic ballet of fire and debris, issuing terse commands that were executed flawlessly by crews who had spent years preparing for a moment like this. And even as the compact's capital ships retaliated with volleys of plasma and kinetic barges, humans adapted instantly, deflecting attacks with shields and countermeasures that had been assumed impractical, and the aliens' reliance on overwhelming numbers turned against them, as humans isolated clusters, divided fleets, and neutralized command hubs with precision strikes. And within hours the first major Virellian cruiser was shattered, the explosion visible across sensors light years away, sending shockwaves of disbelief through both fleets. And in the Council chamber, Supreme Coordinator Threx's composed facade cracked as he realized that the humans were exploiting tactics the Compact had considered obsolete, using asymmetric maneuvers, feints, and controlled retreats that drew superior forces into traps where every overextension was punished ruthlessly. And on Mars, hidden launch facilities deployed long-range missiles that altered their course with self-learning algorithms, striking docking bays and fuel depots, crippling entire squadrons before they could engage. And across human space, the synchronized activation of orbital defense grids disrupted communications and guidance systems, rendering the Compact centralized command model vulnerable. And yet humans suffered losses too, not catastrophic but visible, as their willingness to accept casualties demonstrated a strategy of attrition foreign to the Compact, where loss was a metric of failure, not acceptable risk. And the alien fleet, attempting to regroup, found itself besieged on multiple fronts, as stealth frigates infiltrated supply lines, and human intelligence operatives embedded in captured systems relayed critical targeting information in real time, allowing orbital bombardments to strike with deadly accuracy. And on Earth, the civilian population, evacuated and protected, listened to transmissions that celebrated small victories with understated pride, knowing each maneuver, each destroyed vessel, and each successful defense was part of a larger narrative, a display that humanity was capable not only of survival but of domination. And within a week, the Compact's attempts at communication were ignored, dismissed, or outright countered with demonstrations of power that escalated in intensity, as humans revealed weapons that could disable propulsion systems, scramble sensor arrays, and even induce temporary spatial anomalies to trap entire squadrons. And Threx, confronted with reports of collapsing formations, lost cruisers, and unexpected tactical ingenuity, finally understood that the Virellian perception of human weakness had been catastrophically wrong, that in every corner of strategy, logistics, technology, and morale, humans had exceeded expectations, and that the concept of total war had been redefined not by overwhelming numbers, but by adaptability, coordination, and an unyielding refusal to surrender. And as the 10th day closed, the Compact fleets were scattered, damaged, and demoralized, and across Earth and human-controlled territories, the realization settled in that the galaxy had just witnessed the beginning of a campaign that would teach every civilization what total war truly meant when humanity decided it was time to fight. As the remnants of the Virellian Compact fleet struggled to regroup in the outer systems, humanity escalated its operations with precision that blurred the line between strategy and artistry. Every human vessel, from orbital frigates to massive dreadnoughts, operating in perfect synchrony, guided by predictive AI that anticipated enemy maneuvers before they occurred, and across multiple battlefronts. Humans executed coordinated strikes that simultaneously targeted logistics hubs, energy, relays, and command stations, crippling the Compact ability to respond effectively, while the aliens' reliance on hierarchical communication became their undoing, as every delay and misinterpreted signal allowed humans to isolate units and neutralize them before reinforcements could arrive. And in the Sol system, Earth's orbital defense grids had been modified to serve as both shield and spear, projecting concentrated plasma bursts while simultaneously directing long-range missiles across interstellar distances with pinpoint accuracy. And on Mars, the Subterranean shipyards launched entire squadrons of stealth bombers designed to appear as mere asteroid fragments until final strike, catching enemy vessels off guard and eliminating critical components of their fleet before any countermeasure could be deployed. And Dr. Kevin Holt's team had perfected the use of quantum destabilizers, weapons that could interfere with alien drive cores, leaving their ships stranded or uncontrollable. And these were deployed with surgical timing to coincide with boarding operations carried out by human marines trained to operate in zero-gravity, zero-visibility environments, boarding enemy vessels and disabling systems with efficiency that left Compact officers struggling to comprehend the level of preparation and coordination. And while Admiral Laura Bennett directed fleet movements from the bridge of the Orion-class command ship, she coordinated simultaneous engagements across multiple sectors, issuing orders that relied on intuition honed over decades of wargaming and field experience, while General Daniel Mercer monitored the broader operational theater from Earth, reallocating resources, predicting enemy reinforcements, and authorizing strikes that consistently turned disadvantage into opportunity. And within days, the Compact's largest cruiser groups had been reduced to scattered fragments, their surviving vessels retreating into previously uncharted sectors as humans advanced relentlessly. And the Virellian Council, previously confident and smug, experienced internal collapse as reports of repeated failures and humiliating defeats spread. Factions blamed each other for underestimating humanity, and Threx struggled to maintain control as advisors demanded immediate peace talks that he refused, fearing that any concession would destroy their credibility permanently. And across the galaxy, word of humanity's unprecedented coordination and devastating effectiveness began to spread, inspiring some minor species to reconsider alliances with the Compact, while others clandestinely offered aid or intelligence to the humans, recognizing that resistance to Earth's emerging dominance was futile. And on the 10th day, humans executed a maneuver so audacious that it would be studied for generations. Simultaneous strikes on 5 major Compact strongholds, each one isolated, each one overwhelmed, with precise timing that ensured reinforcements from neighboring sectors could not arrive, effectively decapitating regional command in a single coordinated operation. And on Earth, President Crowe, observing results on a massive display spanning the Subterranean command hub, allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction, knowing that humanity's response was not born from panic or desperation, but from the culmination of centuries of planning, preparation, an innate human capacity to adapt and innovate under pressure. And in the council chamber, Threx finally voiced a realization that no single strike, no single fleet, could contain humanity once they had committed a total war, that every prior assumption about weakness, compliance, and predictability had been invalidated, and as humans prepared to press their advantage deeper into Compact territory, the galaxy began to understand that total war had shifted from an abstract concept into a living, calculated force, driven by humans who had been underestimated at every turn, and who were now demonstrating that resilience, ingenuity, and sheer determination could overcome technological superiority, numerical advantage, and political complacency. And even as some Compact officers attempted desperate counterattacks, they found their strategies anticipated, their maneuvers predicted, and their morale collapsing as humans demonstrated that every engagement was part of a larger, coherent campaign designed to overwhelm, not through brute force, alone, but through precision, adaptability, and unrelenting pressure. And in the aftermath of the 10th day, while debris from shattered fleets drifted across previously secure sectors, humanity's forces remained largely intact, poised to expand operations further, and the Virellian Compact, once confident in their dominion, began to understand that they had misjudged not only human capability, but the very nature of humanity itself, that the 10-day ultimatum had not been met with fear, capitulation, or negotiation, but with meticulously executed revelation of strength, strategy, and an unyielding will to fight. And as the first week of actual combat concluded, reports confirmed that human casualties, while real, were minimal compared to the destruction inflicted, reinforcing the galaxy-wide perception that humanity had become an unstoppable force. And every message broadcast, every fleet movement, every technological deployment sent a single, unmistakable signal to all observers. Humanity was no longer an underdog. It was a new standard by which total war will be measured across the stars. As the aftermath of the first major human counteroffensive settled across multiple star systems, the Virellian Compact scrambled to comprehend the scale and sophistication of humanity's coordinated campaign, their once rigid command hierarchies buckling under continuous, unpredictable strikes that exploited every weakness previously unnoticed or underestimated. And across human-controlled sectors, intelligence networks intercepted and decoded Compact communications, feeding real-time updates into predictive models that allowed human admirals and generals to anticipate enemy reinforcements, reroute attacks, and create tactical diversions with the precision of a conductor orchestrating a vast symphony, while Dr. Kevin Holt's teams in orbital laboratories worked tirelessly to refine quantum destabilizers, adaptive shield arrays, and gravitic pulse weapons that transformed every engagement into a study of controlled chaos, designed not merely to destroy, but to manipulate enemy maneuvers and force alien fleets into traps carefully laid months or even years prior. And on Earth, President Alan Crowe convened a council of civilian, military, and scientific leaders, emphasizing that humanity's strength lay not only in technology, but in cohesion, moral resolve, and the capacity to innovate under extreme pressure. And in the Martian shipyards, hidden launch bays sent forth waves of stealth frigates, each equipped with autonomous AI capable of executing independent attack. patterns while maintaining constant communication with command nodes, effectively creating a multi-vector assault network that compact fleets could neither predict nor counter. And across the outer colonies, Earth's intelligence operatives activated sleeper cells, gathering resources, sabotaging supply lines, and providing human forces with critical insider knowledge, while civilian engineers and mathematicians repurpose industrial systems to create new weapons, logistical networks, and mobile command centers, all integrated into a single, flexible wartime infrastructure. And Admiral Laura Bennett coordinated strikes across the Central Theater, her flagship weaving through orbital debris and enemy fire, issuing precise commands to squadrons of fighters, bombers, and electronic warfare vessels, while every human ship, from the smallest scout to the largest dreadnought, adapted its behavior in real time, exploiting the Compact's over-reliance on rigid formation tactics. And in space, above Venus, human assault carriers execute a maneuver that cut the supply lines of an entire alien armada, severing fuel depots, disabling propulsion cores, and leaving enemy cruisers adrift, their crews stunned by the efficiency and unexpected foresight of human strategy. And while the Compact attempted to deploy elite boarding teams and counteroffensive strikes, human forces anticipated every move, intercepting boarding parties with drones, deploying electromagnetic nets to disable enemy systems, and using adaptive shields to absorb kinetic and energy attacks while conserving critical resources. And in the Council Chamber of Threats, panic replaced arrogance as reports flooded into collapsing formations, annihilated outposts, and intercepted communications that revealed the depth of human coordination, and advisors debated options, some advocating for immediate retreat, others for desperate counterattacks, but all recognized that the humans had transformed the very concept of combat, turning attrition into leverage, misdirection into victory, and rapid adaptation into a weapon more potent than any singular fleet. And on Earth, General Daniel Mercer oversaw the integration of military, scientific, and logistical operations, issuing directives that allowed humans to sustain offensive campaigns across multiple star systems simultaneously, while simultaneously protecting critical planetary infrastructure and maintaining public morale. And as the Compact attempted to consolidate forces in previously secure sectors, they were met with ambushes from stealth frigates, long-range missile barges, and electronic warfare attacks that disrupted their sensor arrays and navigation systems, leaving entire divisions stranded or isolated, while human strike teams executed boarding operations with near-perfect timing, neutralizing command modules and turning alien ships into temporary extensions of human control. And in orbital facilities above Mercury, scientists refined gravitic pulse generators that could destabilize enemy formations, redirecting entire fleets into kill zones pre-planned by human strategists. And across the human territories, communications relays ensured that every vessel, every ground team, and every deployed weapon system operated with synchronized precision, effectively creating a web of control that spanned multiple star systems. And as the second week of active operations unfolded, Compact forces faced repeated defeats there, morale deteriorating, their strategic options shrinking, and their commanders realizing with growing dread that humanity was no longer merely defending itself. It was executing a war of unprecedented scale and coordination. And even as alien fleets attempted last-minute countermeasures, humans adapted instantly, introducing new technologies, untested tactics, and unpredictable maneuvers that rendered the Compact's responses ineffective, demonstrating that total war was no longer defined by sheer numbers, overwhelming firepower, or centralized command, but by adaptability, cohesion, foresight, and the willingness to accept risk and innovate under pressure. And by the end of the fourth day of active combat, the Compact had lost control of multiple strategic sectors, their fleet integrity shattered, and the galaxy had begun to realize that humanity's response to the 10-day ultimatum was not merely survival or retaliation. It was a meticulously calculated revelation of human capability, and the first real lesson of what total war meant when humans refused to surrender was becoming brutally, unmistakably clear. As humanity's campaign pressed deeper into Compact territory, the scale of human ingenuity and coordination became increasingly evident, with fleets executing multi-system offensives that struck simultaneously on orbital defenses, communication hubs, and logistics depots. While human engineers deployed autonomous drones capable of repairing friendly systems mid-battle and sabotaging enemy operations with near invisibility, and every engagement revealed layers of planning and adaptability that alien commanders could neither anticipate nor counter, as Admiral Laura Bennett coordinated attacks that integrated orbital bombardments, fighter swarms, and gravitic pulse strikes to paralyze entire squadrons, while General Daniel Mercer monitored the broader theater, issuing strategic directives that allowed humans to exploit vulnerabilities in enemy formations before they could recover. And on Earth, President Alan Crowe addressed the world, emphasizing that the human offensive was not born of vengeance but of necessity, a demonstration that when humanity's survival was threatened, it could unify, innovate, and execute strategy at a scale unmatched in galactic history and in orbital yards across Mars and the asteroid belt. Crews launched additional vessels designed for specialized roles, including stealth assault carriers, electromagnetic disruptors, and adaptive shield cruisers, each integrated into a command network that allowed near-instantaneous coordination across light years, and Dr. Kevin Holt's team refined quantum destabilizers capable of neutralizing compact propulsion systems, while AI-assisted targeting algorithms calculated trajectories and predicted enemy responses with terrifying accuracy. And in the outer colonies, human intelligence networks fed critical battlefield information back to Earth, enabling preemptive strikes that crippled reinforcements before they could reach engaged sectors. And as the Compact attempted to consolidate its scattered forces, humans anticipated every maneuver, using feints, decoys, and controlled retreats to lure enemy ships into traps, then striking with overwhelming precision, leaving alien fleets disoriented and demoralized. And in the Virellian Council Chamber, Supreme Coordinator Threx watched reports with growing alarm, realizing that every assumption about human weakness, predictability, and technological inferiority had been catastrophically wrong, as advisors argued over whether to attempt diplomacy, retreat, or desperate counterattacks. But every option was rendered moot by the humans' relentless and adaptive strategy, and across human-controlled space, civilians continued to support the war effort with ingenuity and resolve, maintaining supply lines, repairing damaged vessels, and operating advanced systems under battlefield conditions, while automated factories increased production of munitions, vehicles, and weapon systems, sustaining the offensive without pause. And as a Compact attempted last-minute strikes against critical human infrastructure, they were intercepted by coordinated orbital defense grids, autonomous drones, and human boarding teams, neutralizing threats before they could inflict meaningful damage. And on the 10th day of this phase, humanity executed a maneuver that would redefine galactic warfare. Simultaneous strikes on 3 major Compact fleet hubs, each one neutralized with surgical precision, their defenses penetrated by adaptive AI-driven assaults, their command structures destroyed, and their vessels either captured or annihilated, leaving the aliens reeling and scrambling to prevent total collapse. And throughout the galaxy, observers from minor species watched in disbelief as humans demonstrated an unprecedented combination of strategy, technology, coordination, and moral resolve, effectively rewriting the rules of engagement for every civilization. And in the Subterranean Command Center beneath Earth, President Crowe, General Mercer, Admiral Bennett, and Dr. Holt reviewed the campaign's progress, acknowledging that humanity had not only survived the Compact's ultimatum, but had decisively demonstrated the capacity to wage and win a total war on a scale no other species had ever imagined. And as the Compact's forces retreated in disarray, abandoning previously secure sectors, humanity's fleets pressed their advantage, exploiting every weakness, coordinating every strike, and revealing to the galaxy that underestimation of humans came with catastrophic consequences. And by the end of the 5th day of active operations, the Compact's once mighty fleets were fractured, their command structures decimated, and the overwhelming realization spread that humanity's response to the 10-day ultimatum was not merely resistance. It was an unprecedented demonstration of dominance, adaptability, and strategic genius that had irrevocably shifted the balance of power in the galaxy. Humanity's momentum continued to surge as the Compact's shattered fleet struggled to regroup, and across multiple star systems, humans executed synchronized offensives that combined orbital bombardments, deep space strikes, and infiltration operations with near-perfect timing, exploiting weaknesses the Compact had long assumed were secure. While Admiral Laura Bennett oversaw simultaneous attacks across 3 separate theaters, her command network integrating AI-assisted predictions real-time, intelligence feeds, and adaptive maneuvers that allowed human forces to anticipate enemy movements, neutralize reinforcements, and maintain the initiative at every turn. And on Earth, President Alan Crowe monitored the unfolding campaign from the Subterranean command hub beneath Washington, coordinating with General Daniel Mercer and Dr. Kevin Holt to ensure that logistics, technology, and personnel flowed seamlessly across battlefronts, while civilians in evacuated zones contributed by maintaining critical infrastructure, producing munitions, and supporting communications networks, creating a war effort that encompassed every facet of human society. And in the Martian shipyards, crews launched specialized vessels equipped with gravitic pulse generators, stealth assault drones, and adaptive shield systems that allowed them to penetrate compact defenses, disrupt propulsion arrays, and neutralize entire squadrons without exposing human crews to unnecessary risk, while Dr. Holt's team continued to refine quantum destabilizers capable of disabling alien core systems remotely, creating vulnerabilities that human forces could exploit with surgical precision. And across the outer colonies, intelligence operatives activated sleeper cells, sabotaging supply lines, intercepting communications, and providing battlefield data that allowed human commanders to predict and counter compact maneuvers, while autonomous AI-driven systems coordinated logistics, repairs, and strike patterns across thousands of vessels, effectively transforming human space into a dynamic network of offense and defense. And as the compact attempted desperate countermeasures, humans adapted instantly, employing feints, controlled retreats, and multi-vector attacks to isolate enemy units and destroy them with overwhelming efficiency. And in the council chamber of threats, panic had replaced arrogance as reports of repeated failures, shattered formations, and intercepted communications flooded. Advisors debated whether to sue for peace, retreat, or launch counteroffensives, but every option was rendered moot by the humans' relentless strategy. And across human-controlled space, civilians continued to contribute, maintaining industrial output, repairing damaged vessels, and operating advanced systems under combat conditions, while automated factories increased production of war material at unprecedented rates, sustaining the relentless offensive. And on the 10th day of this phase, humanity executed a coordinated strike across 5 major compact fleet hubs, neutralizing their defenses, destroying command structures, and capturing or annihilating vessels in a synchronized operation that left the alien fleets reeling. And observers from minor species across the galaxy watched in disbelief as humans demonstrated an unprecedented combination of strategy, technology, coordination, and resilience, effectively redefining the concept of total war for all civilizations. And in the Subterranean Command Center beneath Earth, President Crowe, General Mercer, Admiral Bennett, and Dr. Holt reviewed the campaign's progress, acknowledging that humanity had not only survived the Compact's ultimatum, but had decisively demonstrated its capacity to wage and win total war on a scale no other species had ever imagined. And as the Compact's forces retreated in disarray, abandoning previously secure sectors, humanity pressed its advantage, exploiting every weakness, coordinating every strike, and demonstrating to the galaxy that underestimation of humans came with catastrophic consequences. And by the end of the 6th day of active operations, the Compact's fleets were fractured, their command structures decimated, and the galaxy had begun to understand that humanity's response to the 10-day ultimatum was not merely resistance. It was an unprecedented exhibition of dominance, adaptability, and strategic brilliance that had irrevocably shifted the balance of power across interstellar space. With the Dominion fleet shattered and scattered across the outer solar system, humanity began the final phase of its strategic demonstration, not merely to defend Earth, but to establish an undeniable presence in a galaxy that could never again be ignored and cloak human dreadnoughts and carriers, having remained unseen for decades, emerged from their hidden positions near Pluto, the Kuiper Belt, and beyond, converging on remaining Karuan forces with relentless coordination, each movement calculated to neutralize enemy strength while minimizing human casualties. And as Dominion commanders struggled to interpret sensor readings, seeing ships appear and vanish at impossible angles, fleets that seemed to defy physics itself, Admiral Karen Holt executed simultaneous strikes across multiple vectors, integrating gravitational manipulation, energy pulses, and drone swarms to incapacitate entire squadrons of cruisers and frigates, while boarding parties seized manned nodes and critical vessels, extracting technology, intelligence, and personnel in operations so precise that entire wings of the Dominion were rendered ineffective before realizing they had been engaged. And on Earth, President Laura Mitchell addressed the world once more, her tone calm, deliberate, and resolute, explaining that humanity had revealed the strength, discipline, and ingenuity that had long been hidden, that the survival of the species had always depended on preparation, patience, and adaptability, and that now the galaxy could witness the consequences of dismissing a civilization it had long underestimated. And deep within the Black Research Directorate, Dr. Alan Brooks monitored Dominion communications in real time, noting the psychological collapse of alien command, the confusion, the despair, and the realization that humans had not only survived an ultimatum, but had systematically dismantled a fleet long considered superior. And as human forces pressed their advantage, deploying automated dreadnoughts to control escape routes, interdict reinforcements, and maintain orbital dominance across every planet, asteroid cluster, and strategic point, the Dominion fleet fragmented into isolated groups, some attempting retreat into interstellar space, others surrendering under the weight of coordinated attacks and the realization that no force could withstand precision, intelligence, and resolve of Earth's hidden military infrastructure. And Captain Ethan Cole led a critical maneuver through the dense ring of Neptune, threading his destroyers through narrow gravitic corridors to intercept a fleeing Dominion cruiser, using advanced energy disruption, decoy deployment, and precise targeting to neutralize propulsion and weapon systems, leaving the ship adrift, captured, or destroyed, while human autonomous drones exploited every structural weakness in the enemy fleet, ensuring that no vessel could operate independently or regroup. And as Dominion admirals attempted to reconcile the loss of control, communications, and ships with reality, the envoy who had delivered the ultimatum watched helplessly, understanding that his assessment of humanity had been catastrophically flawed, that the species he had expected to surrender in hours had orchestrated a multidimensional, multi-decade operation of deception, preparation, and technological mastery that left the civilization humbled and defeated. And across Earth, civilians observed only fragments of these victories, unaware that the hidden fleets had not only defended the planet, but demonstrated an entirely new level of human capability, a revelation that would echo across the galaxy, reshaping every calculation, every alliance, every expectation about what Earth could achieve. And as the last Dominion resistance was neutralized, humanity's forces consolidated, not for conquest, but to assert presence, control, and deterrence, ensuring that the lessons of the failed invasion were engraved into the memory of every galactic civilization, that the species once underestimated was now recognized as a dominant, unpredictable, and strategically brilliant power, and that the revelation of what humans have been hiding was complete, leaving the galaxy to reconcile with a civilization that had quietly prepared for centuries, mastered technology and tactics, and demonstrated beyond dispute that underestimating humanity was an error no one would ever repeat.